Let's take a walk back to what was perhaps a better time. Underrated midnight hunt, budget bangers, and hidden gems. Okay, bear with me here. I was playing a Commander game yesterday. A real 5-player monstrosity of a game. Everything from sweaty infinite combo decks to unmodified precons. I was playing a budget Bladewing Deathless Tyrant deck and I was doing just fine. There was a point that I had Hound on the battlefield and some random critters. Well, don't you know it, old Andrew over there cast a Phyrexian Rebirth. Now, since there were 19 creatures on the battlefield, the old Hound triggered 19 times and all my opponents lost 19 life. Now, if you don't know, Hound is 4 black for a creature demon dog. It's a 6/6. When it enters the battlefield, mill 3 cards. Whenever a creature dies or a creature card is put into a graveyard from a library, each opponent loses 1 life. It herds souls towards eternal torment or my ex-girlfriend's house, whichever's closer. My opponents were like, "Jeebus, Nicky G, I never even knew that card existed. You're so cool, be my friend forever." And that's what I want you all to say every video. I want you guys to watch these videos and say, "Hey, this guy's really cool. Let's like and subscribe for hipster credibility." Hound is a perfect card in that deck, and it costs literally 5 cents. It has similar text to Sir Conrad. I don't think everyone at the table realized that. It got me thinking, what are some cards from the old Midnight Hunt that got overlooked and passed by? Glad you asked, my friend, because that's a video I just made. Alright, first off I want to mention Vanquish the Horde. This is $4, 6 white for a sorcery. The spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature on the battlefield. Destroy all creatures. This is simple, elegant, and most likely it's going to cost you 2 white mana. I have no idea why this isn't more expensive. It's got Sean Connery in the art. He's striking down the entire Highlander clan, dude. Oh, look at this queen. We got Auger of Autumn. Difficult to say. 1 green for a creature. Human druid, it's a 2/3. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may play lands from the top of your library, and it has Coven. As long as you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, you may cast creature spells from the top of your library. This is a little more narrow, but look at this lady. She's offering you glowing bones, dude. She's got the #1 hat in Magic. This can be a huge card advantage engine in a creature-based deck. These effects play better than they read if your deck is built out of creatures, brother. And you got Malevolent Hermit, 1 and a blue for a creature, human wizard, it's a 2/1. Has blue and sacrifice it, counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 3. It has disturb for 2 and a blue, so you can cast it from your graveyard transformed for its disturbed cost. And on the backside you got Benevolent Geist, it's a creature spirit wizard, it's a 2/2 with flying. Non-creature spells you control can't be countered. If it would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, exile instead. This guy turns from sad Joe Biden on the front to happy Joe Biden on the back. This is a pain in the butt for your opponents. 3 generic mana is hard to hold up, and you get to double dip into the backside, dude. You got Lysa, Forgotten Archangel, 2 white and a black for a legendary creature, Angel. It's a 4/5 with flying and lifelink. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, return that card to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. If a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. This is a big, beefy, flying, lifelinking, beautiful, raven-haired angel. How could you forget about her? That destroys graveyard shenanigans and aristocrats. Love it. This is under $2, buddy. Alright, before we get too deep into this, I did want to mention the land cycle. These are some of the best cards for Commander, some of the best dual lands. The only way this hoses you is if it's your second or first land and you had a turn 1 play. If you keep a hand where you only had the 2 lands, just play it turn 1 tapped, you dingus. Well, then you got Sarith, the Viper's Fang. I don't know if I'm saying that right, brother. 2 green for a legendary creature, human warlock, it's a 3/4. Other tapped creatures you control have Death Touch. Other untapped creatures you control have Hexproof. 1 and untap another target creature or land you control. This is such a good card. It goes in so many decks and plays great in Commander. Makes your attacking creatures hard to block, and creatures with vigilance have Hexproof. She's chilling in some logs with a python, and that's the lady you want on your side. She's got the #2 hat, but you can't have it all, buddy. You got Jadar Pinkett Smith, Ghoul Caller of Nephalia. 1 and a black for a legendary creature, human wizard, it's a 1/1. At the beginning of your end step, if you control no creatures with Decayed, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token with Decayed. This Samuel L. Jackson lookalike is making you a token every turn. So what are you doing with that token, huh? Is it better than Bitter Blossom? Hell no. Bitter Blossom is way better, but this is pretty okay for under $2. I put this in a ton of budget decks. Fateful Abs, 1 and a white for an instant. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. Its controller investigates, so they get to create a stupid clue token. For some reason, Fabio over here forgot where he put his wife. This old Fred Flintstone trick. What the heck? Is this better than Swords to Plowshares? No, but the added flexibility to hit a planeswalker is pretty good too. It doesn't exile, it destroys. It's a redundant effect. It destroys, you can hit your own stuff if needed.
Oh, then you got this big buff animal, Lord of the Forsaken, yeah.
4 black for a creature. Demon 6/6, flying trample, has black, sacrifice another creature. Target player mills 3 cards. Pay 1 life, add colorless. Spend this mana only to cast a spell from your graveyard. The amalgamation of abilities on this guy is so weirdly specific. It's 50 cents. It's a 6/6 with flample, that's a sacrifice outlet and a graveyard filler. He's got chains with some hands on the end. He's gonna slap the heck out of your face with those, dude.
And you got the old galvanic iteration.
Blue and a red for an instant. When you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell, you dingus. You may choose new targets for the copy. Has flashback for 1 blue and a red. This goes in specific decks that want to copy big spells, of which there are many, especially in the Izzet colors. The flashback on this makes it like 2 cards for the price of 1. Come on, dude. Copy a dang Jessica's Will or a ding dang Time Warp, you stang twin. Alright, I'm sorry I called you a stang twin. We got Morbid Opportunist, 2 and a black for a creature. Human rogue, it's a 1/3. Whenever 1 or more other creatures die, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. She's making sure nothing in the pockets can hurt the guy, nothing sharp in there while he takes his little nappy nap. I love this card because it triggers off of tokens, which a lot of the other cards that do this don't. You can sacrifice things on your opponent's turns with like Carrion Feeder or something like that. Maybe after declaring them as blockers, then you get to draw some cards. And you got Gisa, Glorious Resurrector, 2 black for a legendary creature. Human wizard, it's a 4/4. If a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. Replacement effect right there. At the beginning of your upkeep, put all creature cards exiled with Gisa, Glorious Resurrector onto the battlefield under your control. They gain decayed. Tell me this doesn't look like Sweet D from Sunny in Philadelphia. It's one of my favorite characters. This is a really sweet effect. Creatures die all the time, and you can use them as sack fodder or whatever you want. It's a game piece that your opponents really need to be mindful of, and she's a 4/4, dude. Oh man, there's Infernal Grasp, 1 and a black for an instant. Destroy target creature, you lose 2 life. This is simple, effective. The red guy's just putting his finger right in his brother's mouth, and I don't know what the heck's up with that. Where the heck's that finger been? Alright, hear me out on this. You're gonna have Commander try hard say, oh, this card's not very good, dude. But we got the Sludge monster, 3 blue for a creature. It's a horror 5/5. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, put a slime counter on up to 1 other target creature. Non-horror creatures with slime counters on them lose all abilities and have base power and toughness 2/2. I have no idea what to say about this art, but this eats commanders and destroys people's game plans, and it plays better than it looks. I just wanted to mention Fading Hope real quick. It's 1 blue for an instant. Return target creature to its owner's hand. If its mana value was 3 or less, scribe 1. Since Unsummon was printed way back in the day, they have given us little variations that have a little upside, and this is another redundant effect if you need that. Moon Silver Key. So this is becoming more and more important, especially with Brothers War, because we have all these artifacts floating around. It's 2 generic mana for an artifact, 1 and tap, sacrifice it. Search your library for an artifact card with a mana ability or a basic land card, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle. I keep harping on this thing. This is so good. The floor is pay 3, tutor up your soul ring. I mean, there's a ton of other stuff you can do with it too. You got the old Kata Commando, yeah. 1 and a white for a creature, human soldier. It's a 3/1 with flash. 1 and sacrifice it, destroy target artifact or enchantment. This guy goes in a ton of decks. It's got 2 relevant creature types, especially more so after the Brothers War in these colors. And if you value sacrifice for your deck or you have lots of weenie recursion, this pays for itself. There's something to be said for removal on a creature as well. Florian, Voldaran Scion. 1 black-red for a legendary creature, Vampire Noble. It's a 3/3 with first strike. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the total amount of life your opponents lost this turn. Exile 1 of those cards and put the rest in the bottom of your library in a random order. You may play the exile card this turn. This art is what it must be like to be Justin Bieber. This card is great in big damage decks like Abaddon and combat-centered decks, and lets you dig really deep and get some awesome cards. Bro, have you ever seen the Root Coil Creeper? It's green and blue for a creature, plant horror, it's a 2/2. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. Tap, add 2 mana of any one color. Spend this mana only to cast spells from your graveyard. It also has green and blue. And tap, exile Root Coil Creeper. Return target card with flashback you own from exile to your hand. Have you ever even seen this guy? He's just a sweet mana dork with the added bonus of giving a double helping of mana for your flashback spells, and you get something back from exile that you already flashed back. He's a creeper, alright? He's in your DMs right now telling you about how he can install ceiling fans. Alright, last one, you got the Crowded Crypt, dude. 2 and a black for an artifact. Tap, add black. Whenever a creature you control dies, put a corpse counter on Crowded Crypt. And then it has 4 black, tap, sacrifice it, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token with Decayed for each corpse counter on Crowded Crypt. I've seen some creative 3-mana artifacts that tap for a specific type of mana. These really have no downside in a monocolored deck, but really shine in a sacrifice-oriented deck. Zombie decks like this as well. Very niche, interesting card. Commander is supposed to be fun, right? You're supposed to be having fun while you're playing this game. And while it can be super competitive, it doesn't have to utilize the same set of super staples for every single deck you have. You don't need to min-max for power all the time. Is Sir Conrad better than Dreadhound? Yeah, but guess what? In my Bladewing Grave Boss deck, I run both because that's better Commander, dude. Snicky G, signing off.